Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
What happened? You got hit. Shot! What's your name? What's your name? What's your name? What's your name? What's your name?
An Iraq War vet serves 2 terms in Iraq, but is shot in the head with some type of police projectile at Occupy Oakland. His friends have formed a vigil at the hospital where he lies unconscious, as thousands retake the encampment in front of Oakland City Hall, now known as Oscar Grant Plaza. Then from the Occupy movement here to Tahrir Square. We speak with 2 leading Egyptian activists, Ahmed Meir and Bassem Fathi.
We thought we were dreaming big, but what happened was bigger than any of our imagination. People refused to leave until Mubarak left. Many were beaten and even killed. Who knew that the police brutality would be a successful strategy for recruiting people? But it was.
All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Marches were held in Oakland, New York, and other cities Wednesday night to protest Tuesday's violent crackdown on the Occupy Oakland movement. Many protesters expressed outrage over the shooting of Oakland protester Scott Olson, a 24-year-old Iraq War vet who fractured his skull Tuesday night when he was hit in the head by a police projectile in Oakland. He's hospitalized in critical condition, is reportedly still unconscious. Video posted online shows a police officer threw a flash grenade at a group of protesters who attempted to care for Olson after he was hit by the projectile. Here in New York, hundreds of Occupy Wall Street demonstrators held an unpermitted march Wednesday night to show solidarity with Oakland. New York police said they arrested about a dozen people. Patrick Bruner is an organizer with Occupy Wall Street.
Behind me, you can hear people chanting, New York is Oakland, Oakland is New York. And this is because we firmly believe that this is a worldwide problem, that this is an American problem. It is not just a problem with New York City, it is not just a problem with Oakland. Police are violent everywhere. The system is broken everywhere.
While the police crackdown in Oakland has made international news, the Washington Post is coming under criticism for how it covered the story. On Wednesday, it ran a story titled, "Protesters Wearing Out Their Welcome Nationwide." Above the photo was a photo of a police officer petting a cat. The caption read, "A police officer in Oakland, California, pets a cat that was left behind by Wall Street protesters who were evicted from the grounds of City Hall." In news from Washington, D.C., Reuters is reporting Democratic lawmakers on the so-called Super Committee are proposing to make cuts to Medicare and Medicaid as part of a plan to slash the budget deficit by up to $3 trillion. The Democratic plan seeks around $400 billion in Medicare savings, with half coming in benefit cuts and the other half in cuts to health care providers. The Democratic proposal also reportedly identifies $100 billion in cuts to the Medicaid health care program for the poor. On Wednesday, Leah Bolger of Veterans for Peace disrupted an open meeting of the Super Committee.
To you, as you know. Thank you. I yield back, Madam Chair.
The American people want to act
the committee will
in the war. That's how we
please.
fix the deficit. And all this obfuscation with percentages of GDP, this is just trying to confuse the issue.
The chair wishes to remind all of our guests that
the public wants you to tax the rich in the wars. We spend more on
I would request that the Capitol please restore order.
And this history of this vast, grotesque spending on wars and the war machine.
The committee shall recess until we are in order.
The base of this economy is we would have enough money for housing and health care and everything that we want if we stop spending our money in this black hole with the military machine. It's very obvious. I speak to the 99% in the war to tax the rich.
Leah Bolger of Veterans for Peace was then escorted out of the committee room by police. European leaders have struck a controversial deal to provide more debt relief for Greece. Under the deal, private banks and insurers will accept a 50% loss on their Greek debt holdings in the latest bid to reduce Athens' massive debt load to sustainable levels. A new report by the Associated Press has revealed New York City Police Department maintains secret intelligence files on Muslims who change their names to sound more traditionally American or who adopt Arabic names as a sign of their faith. While the department monitors anyone in the city who changes their name, those whose names sound Arabic or might be from Muslim countries are subjected to extensive background checks that include reviewing travel records, criminal histories, business licenses, and immigration documents. In banking news, former Goldman Sachs board member Rajat Gupta has been released on $10 million bail after pleading not guilty to 6 charges of insider trading. He was charged Wednesday on 1 count of conspiracy to commit securities fraud and 5 counts of securities fraud in one of the biggest insider trading cases in history. A pair of Egyptian police officers were sentenced Wednesday night to 8 years in prison for the beating death of 28-year-old man. The 2010 killing of Khalid Said helped to spark the Egyptian revolution that ultimately toppled the regime of Hosni Mubarak. The officers were both charged with manslaughter. Members of Said's family argued the sentence was too light, while supporters of the officers reportedly attempted to attack prosecutors in the courtroom. We'll speak with 2 leading Egyptian activists later in the broadcast. In news from Libya, an official from the National Transitional Council is claiming Muammar Gaddafi's fugitive son, Saif al-Islam, wants to surrender and turn himself into the Hague War Crimes Court. The NTC is claiming former Libyan intelligence chief Abdullah al-Sanusi also wants to surrender. Both men are the subject of arrest warrants from the International Criminal Court. Meanwhile, Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez Wednesday says he will not recognize the new rebel-led government in Libya.
No reconocemos el gobierno que han instalado, la OTAN ha instalado un gobierno a punta de bombas en Libia.
We don't recognize the government that they have installed. NATO has installed a government in Libya by force of bombs and with genocide and an assassination. They have murdered a president, no matter who the president was, or if you like him, or anyone else likes him. He was the president of Libya.
Lo asesinaron, ahora lo
They killed him and threw him into the desert. And beyond that, they are talking about some 50,000 dead, a true genocide, the destruction of a country.
Secretary of State Hillary Clinton welcomed Bahraini Foreign Minister Sheikh Khalid bin Ahmed Al Khalifa to the State House on Wednesday.
It's a pleasure once again for me to welcome my colleague and counterpart, the Foreign Minister of Bahrain. He's been here in consultations with many officials of our government, members of Congress, others who care deeply about Bahrain and our important relationship. And I'm looking forward to a wide-ranging, comprehensive discussion of our full agenda, sir.
The meeting comes at a time when human rights groups are criticizing the Obama administration for its continued support of Bahrain despite the kingdom's recent deadly crackdown on anti-government protesters. Part of Wednesday's meeting focused on a planned $53 million U.S. arms sale to Bahrain that's been temporarily put on hold. State Department spokesperson Victoria Nuland defended the arms sale, saying it would bolster Manama's external defenses. In news from South America, 12 former Argentine officials have been sentenced to life in prison for human rights abuses committed during Argentina's dirty war. The convicted include Alfredo Astiz, known as Argentina's blonde angel of death. Astiz and the other men convicted were accused of horrific crimes at the ESMA Naval Mechanics School, where about 5,000 dissidents were held and tortured between 1976 and 1983. Few of the captives survived. You can go to democracynow.org to get our hour broadcast from Buenos Aires in Argentina. President Obama unveiled his plan Wednesday to make college loans more affordable and easier to repay for millions of former students. A key part of the plan will allow college graduates to cap their federal student loan repayments at 10% of their discretionary income starting in January, 2 years before the cap was due to take effect under federal law. Obama outlined the plan during a speech at the University of Colorado, Denver.
And when a big chunk of every paycheck goes towards student loans instead of being spent on other things, that's not just tough for middle-class families, it's painful for the economy, and it's harmful to our recovery because that money is not going to help businesses grow.
During his speech in Denver, President Obama was interrupted by protesters calling on him to block the proposed Keystone XL tar sands pipeline.
They work. All right. Thank you, guys. We're looking at it right now. All right, no decision's been made, and I know your deep concern about it, so we will address it.
The protesters, who also held up a banner reading "Stop the Keystone Pipeline Project," were then removed from President Obama's event. A U.S. federal appeals court has revived a lawsuit accusing mining giant Rio Tinto of committing genocide and war crimes in Papua New Guinea, where it once ran one of the world's largest copper and gold mines. In their lawsuit, current and former residents of the island of Bougainville claim that Rio Tinto decimated the island and forced native workers to live in slave-like conditions. Meanwhile, in Washington, lawmakers in the Republican-controlled House have approved a federal land swap Wednesday that would clear the way for Rio Tinto to create North America's largest copper mine in Arizona. The swap would trade 2,400 acres of federal forest land in southeastern Arizona for about 5,300 acres of environmentally sensitive land controlled by a subsidiary of Rio Tinto. The federal forest is thought to contain billions of dollars worth of high-grade copper. Under current law, the mining company will not have to pay any royalties to the U.S. government for the mineral rights. In other mining news, conservation groups are praising the Department of Interior's decision to place a 20-year moratorium on new uranium mining near the Grand Canyon National Park and Lake Mead. The decision prevents only new mining claims. In news from West Virginia, a former employee of Massey Energy was convicted of 2 felonies for his role in the cover-up of the Upper Big Branch mining disaster that left 29 miners dead last year. Huey Stover worked as security chief for the mine. He was convicted of making false statements to FBI and Mine Safety and Health Administration investigators and of obstructing a federal investigation. Former United Nations Weapons Inspector Scott Ritter has been sentenced for up to 5.5 years behind bars in Pennsylvania after being convicted in connection with an underage sex sting. He was arrested in 2009 after exchanging explicit online messages with a detective posing as a 15-year-old girl. Ritter was a leading critic of the Iraq War. And former Democratic Congressman Howard Wolpe of Michigan has died at the age of 71. In 1986, he helped pass the Federal Anti-Apartheid Act against South Africa. The bill was initially vetoed by President Reagan, but the veto was overridden by Congress. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.